facing serious charges in what Woodstock police are calling a hostage situation overnight. Right now, the suspect is in jail and the victim safely rescued by SWAT teams. I'm Lana Harris.
And I'm Brooks Baptiste. Atlanta News First Don Shipman is live in Woodstock outside that apartment complex. Don, you've been there for quite some time now, and for many in that area, this was likely a very scary situation.
Yeah, definitely a scary situation, an agonizing 8-hour situation right here. Now, the suspect, police say, is the victim's boyfriend. He's identified by police as William Scott Kirk. They say that he held his girlfriend hostage in her apartment beyond those gates right there. All of this happening overnight. The first alert chopper capturing tense moments when a SWAT team could be seen surrounding an apartment building inside Alta Ridgewalk Apartments in Woodstock.
I've seen all these cop cars. It's like 20 cop cars and stuff.
Officers with Woodstock Police and the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office spending hours attempting to apprehend a suspect who was barricaded inside an apartment. The people who live here waking up to dozens of police vehicles and other emergency personnel.
And I don't know what happened, but they were searching around, looking around the complex for somebody.
Hours into the standoff, multiple ambulances could be seen going into the complex, then exiting a short time later. We also heard a loud boom, police using a flashbang device, which creates a thunderous bang and emits a bright light aimed at creating a diversion so SWAT can make entry, in this case, to the apartment.
Yeah, it's real shocking because this is a nice complex,
Now, the victim, police say, is okay, and there are no other injuries. As for Kirk, he's facing several charges, including kidnapping, aggravated assault, and false imprisonment. We're live here in Woodstock. Don Shipman, Atlanta News First.